Hello everyone, welcome back to ATBP Gaming again. Today I want to discuss about something that is seems small but is very important to me. It is about my stray cats and dogs, rescued cats and dogs, and how they affect the life of someone like me living in poverty. First of all, I do not buy pets. I'm against breeding animals for profit. I believe every animal deserves a home, not to be treated like an object. Adoption or rescue is the right way, but sometimes life does not allow us to have pets in the traditional sense. We cannot afford proper food, medicine, shelter, but still, stray animals find a way into our hearts. They provide comfort even in the hardest times. There are days when everything feels heavy, no money for food, constant responsibilities, no hope for the future, and yet seeing a stray cat curl up nearby or stray dog wag its tail creates a moment of peace. It is a strange kind of friendship. I cannot give them everything they need. I cannot give them a home like wealthier people can. To be honest, these wealthier people do not want them either, which is sad. But you know, I can share small things to them. A little water, food, a kind word, or just attention. And in return, they give me comfort that is hard to describe. Sometimes neighbors do not understand this. They see strays as a problem. They chase them away, throw things at them, speak harshly, or basically hurt them, kill them. I have argued with them many times. Mostly it is verbal. Sometimes it becomes physical. I fight them. I cannot help it. I cannot stand cruelty, especially when the animals have done nothing wrong. I will fight for them if I see things like that. These fights are not only about the animals, they are about respect, empathy, and fairness. Because when you are poor, you will realize that life feels unfair. It is unfair. Seeing someone harm the helpless animals reminds you of the injustices around you, and it makes you fight, even if it brings you trouble. I remember one time a small kitten appeared in front of my house because my neighbors do this. Um, sure, they will adopt a dog, but they will just use it as a guard dog for their house to to prevent burglars from going inside their house. But they will not take care of them. They will just throw food, uh, unwanted food, and that's it. They will leave that dog in the sun, in the rain, and if that dog, let's say for example, that dog is a girl and it got pregnant, they will throw the babies, and they know that I take care of stray dogs. They will just leave that uh, poor babies inside in front of my house, which is very sad and it makes me angry. uh, I beaten people uh, who do that. I hate that. It was, I remember it was very weak and hungry. I did not have money to buy proper food like cat food like the one in the can, but I give it scraps of my own meals. My neighbor shouted at me and said it was useless, and that I should not feed it because it will just stay there and it will bring more cats. And I shouted back at them. Yes, sometimes that kind of situation turns physical, but I could not leave the kitten to suffer. That tiny life mattered, even if the people around me made survival so difficult for this kind of creatures. Caring for strays teaches patience. They do not always respond to kindness immediately. You have to gain their trust. Some cats hide for days before trusting you. Some dogs bark and run away at first, but slowly they will learn that you are not a threat. A cat may come closer, a dog may follow you for a few steps, and that small trust feels meaningful, even when everything else in life is uncertain. I often think about how similar stray animals to people like me. You know, they survive without comfort. They search for food wherever they can. They face dangers every day, and yet they still manage to find joy in small things. A warm spot in the sun, a kind gesture from someone who cares, a safe corner to rest. Sometimes I notice that wealthier people do not understand this connection. They see animals as pets or status symbols. They do not feel the same emotional bond with creatures that survive alongside hardship, like these poor strays. But for poor people like me, people who care about these kinds of creatures, stray dogs, cats, they are companions, teachers, and reminders that small kindness matters. Strays also teach humility. You learn that happiness is not about wealth or comfort. It is about small connections and small acts of care. Sharing even the little you have, water, food, attention, create moments of meaning. It reminds you that life is not only about survival. It is about presence, empathy, and responsibility. There are also quiet moments when provide comfort you cannot describe. After a long day of work, worry, or responsibilities, seeing a cat rub against your legs or a dog following you home creates warmth that is hard to find elsewhere. It reminds you that the world can still be gentle even when life is hard. But this comfort is fragile. It exists alongside cruelty and neglect. Neighbors, many of my neighbors see strays as pests. I have seen dogs tied in dangerous places or cats driven away harshly. I have tried to intervene. I shouted, argued, and even physically stepped in. These moments are stressful, but I cannot ignore them. Protecting life, no matter how small, is part of surviving poverty with dignity. I also think about what these animals teach about resilience. They are alive despite the challenges, hunger, and danger. They do not give up. They adapt. They find shelter and food where they can. And in some ways, they mirror the experience of people living in poverty like me. We survive, we adapt, we keep going, but the struggle is real. It is constant and exhausting, to be honest. Sometimes I imagine a world where stress and humans alike are cared for equally, where kindness is not limited by wealth and cruelty is not normalized. That may be impossible, but small acts still matter. Sharing scraps of food, giving water, or simply offering attention can mean everything to a life struggling to survive. Even when life is heavy, these small bonds of this even when life is heavy, these small bonds reminds me of hope. They remind me that goodness can exist even in a difficult world. They remind me that life is not only suffering, it is also about, trust, love, empathy, even in tiny forms. I do not have much, but I do not need much to care for these animals, you know, and they remind me that caring does not require health, wealth, it requires attention, compassion, and respect. Even on hardest days, their presence is very comforting. It reminds me that life is not only about survival. There are moments of beauty, you know, there are moments of trust, and there are moments where someone or something believes in you just by being there. So that's it. That is my rambling for the day. Thank you for watching this video, and thank you for taking the time to clicking this. I would like to read your thoughts and stories, opinions about this. So please comment it below. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.